The whispers started the moment I walked through the door. 20 years after graduation, and I was still the outsider. But what happened next would change everything, not just for me, but for my daughter too. If you've ever felt like life dealt you an unfair hand, this story might just give you the hope you need. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want more real stories about second chances and unexpected heroes. I adjusted my second-hand suit jacket as I stepped into the grand ballroom of the Westfield Hotel. The high school reunion banner hung mockingly above the entrance. Welcome back, class of 2006. 20 years had passed, but my palms were sweating like I was still that awkward teenager who never quite fit in. "Dad, you look fine," my daughter Emma whispered, squeezing my hand. At 16, she was my rock, though she shouldn't have had to be. Her mother had made sure of that when she walked out on us 10 years ago, claiming I was going nowhere and she deserved better. Emma shouldn't even have been here tonight, but my babysitter had cancelled last minute. Single parenting meant improvising, always. I'd promised her we'd just make a brief appearance, shake a few hands, and leave. I needed to network. Teaching high school science didn't pay enough for Emma's college fund, and I was desperate for connections. "Jack Mitchell? Is that you?" I turned to see Trevor Blackwood, former quarterback and current regional sales director according to his name tag. His smile was genuine, which surprised me. "Trevor, hey. Good to see you." I shook his hand, noticing his designer watch that probably cost more than my monthly salary. "And who's this young lady?" he asked, nodding toward Emma. "My daughter, Emma. My sitter cancelled, so she's being a good sport tonight." Trevor's eyes softened. "Single dad life, huh? Respect, man. That's tough." Before I could respond, a familiar laugh cut through the ambient chatter like a knife. "Melissa. My ex-wife." I hadn't seen her in person for years, though her Instagram was full of vacation photos with her new husband, a dental surgeon with offices in 3 states. Emma tensed beside me. Her relationship with her mother consisted of birthday cards and the occasional weekend visit that usually got cancelled. I placed a protective hand on her shoulder. "Let's get some punch," I suggested, steering us away from Melissa's direction. "Too late. Jack? Oh my God, you actually came." Melissa's voice carried across the room, drawing attention our way. She looked exactly as she did online, expensively maintained, with that perfect smile that had once made my heart race but now just made my stomach clench. She air-kissed my cheek, the scent of her designer perfume overwhelming. "And Emma. Look how big you've gotten." Emma mumbled a hello, her eyes fixed on the floor. "I didn't expect to see you here," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "I thought you were living in Connecticut now." "Oh, we are. Richard has his main practice there, but we keep the penthouse in the city too. We just flew in on his private jet yesterday." She turned to the small crowd that had gathered around us. "Richard couldn't make it tonight, emergency surgery for one of his celebrity clients." I nodded, feeling the familiar inadequacy creeping in. The room suddenly seemed too hot, too crowded. "So what are you up to these days, Jack?" she asked, though her tone suggested she already knew and wasn't impressed. "Still teaching science at Westridge High," I replied. "Oh." Her smile tightened. "That's consistent of you." A few chuckles rippled through the onlookers. Emma's hand found mine again, squeezing hard. "And you brought Emma to a reunion?" Melissa continued, her voice dripping with false concern. "Couldn't find a sitter? Or afford one?" The laughter grew louder. Emma's face flushed red. "We're managing just fine," I said, my voice strained. "Are you, though?" Melissa's perfectly manicured hand touched my worn suit sleeve. "Because Richard and I were just talking about Emma's future. With college coming up, we thought maybe she should come live with us. We have connections to all the best schools, and..." Mom, stop, Emma interrupted, her voice small but firm. I'm not going anywhere. Melissa's smile never faltered. Sweetie, I'm just thinking about your future. Your father is doing his best, but let's be realistic about opportunities. The humiliation burned through me like acid. Not for myself, I'd grown used to Melissa's jabs, but for Emma having to witness this. I opened my mouth to respond when a deep voice cut through the tension. Jack Mitchell. There you are. The crowd parted as if by command, and there stood Alexander Reed, CEO of Reed Innovations and my boss for the past 6 months. I'd been working nights and weekends at his company's lab, a part-time position I'd landed through sheer persistence. We'd spoken maybe 3 times, always briefly. He was dressed impeccably in what I guessed was a bespoke suit, his commanding presence drawing every eye in the room. Forbes had recently estimated his worth at just over $11 billion. Mr. Reed, I stammered. I didn't expect to see you here. He smiled, clasping my shoulder like we were old friends. I was in town for a conference and remembered you mentioned your reunion. Thought I'd stop by and surprise you. He turned to Emma. And this must be the brilliant daughter you're always talking about. Emma's eyes widened. I'd mentioned her once in passing during a lab meeting. Yes, this is Emma, I said, still stunned. Alexander extended his hand to her. Your father speaks very highly of your science aptitude. That project you did on sustainable energy solutions, he showed me the designs. Impressive work. Emma blushed with pride as she shook his hand. Thank you, sir. Alexander turned to Melissa, who was staring at him with undisguised shock. And you are? Melissa Winters, she said, quickly recovering and extending her hand. Jack's ex-wife. It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Reed. Your work in renewable energy is revolutionary. Thank you, he said politely, barely touching her hand before turning back to me. Jack, do you have a moment? I wanted to discuss your proposal. The board reviewed it yesterday, and I have some news. My heart skipped. 3 months ago, I'd submitted a research proposal on a new teaching methodology that integrated advanced lab techniques into high school science curricula. I'd assumed it had been lost in the corporate shuffle. Of course, I managed. Good. Alexander nodded to Emma. You should join us too, young lady. This concerns your future as well. As we walked away, I caught a glimpse of Melissa's face, a mixture of confusion and dawning realization that perhaps she'd miscalculated. Alexander led us to a quiet corner of the ballroom. Sorry to interrupt your conversation, but it looked like you could use an exit. I exhaled. Thank you. That was uncomfortable. He waved dismissively. I meant what I said about your proposal, Jack. The board didn't just approve it, they were impressed. We want to fully fund the pilot program at 5 schools, with you as the lead developer. I stared at him, uncomprehending. But that would mean a full-time position with Reed Innovations, yes. Triple your current salary, plus benefits and stock options. He smiled at my stunned expression. You've been doing remarkable work in our lab, Jack. On nights and weekends, after teaching all day and raising your daughter. That kind of dedication and brilliance deserves recognition. Emma squeezed my arm, her eyes shining. There's more, Alexander continued. We've established a new scholarship program for promising young scientists. Emma's sustainable energy project caught my daughter's attention, she's on our education board. We'd like to offer Emma a full scholarship to any university of her choice, plus a guaranteed internship at Reed Innovations during summers. Emma gasped. Are you serious? Alexander smiled. Completely serious. Talent like yours shouldn't be limited by financial constraints. I couldn't speak. After years of struggling, of pinching pennies and working multiple jobs, of wondering if I was failing my daughter by not providing enough, this moment felt unreal. "Mr. Reed, I don't know what to say," I finally managed. "Say yes," he replied simply. "And call me Alex. We'll be working closely together from now on." As we rejoined the reunion, the atmosphere had shifted. Word had spread quickly, as it always does when a billionaire appears unexpectedly, and suddenly former classmates were approaching with newfound interest in my work and life. Melissa made her way over, her smile strained. "Jack, can we talk privately for a moment?" Before I could respond, Emma stepped forward. "Actually, Mom, Dad and I need to celebrate. Maybe another time?" The pride I felt in that moment outshone any lingering humiliation. My daughter stood tall, confident in our little family of two. As we left the reunion early, with promises to meet Alex on Monday to discuss the new position, Emma linked her arm through mine. "Dad," she said quietly as we walked to our car, the one I'd kept running through sheer determination and YouTube repair videos. "Yeah, sweetheart. Even before Mr. Reed showed up, I was proud of you. You know that, right?" I pulled her into a hug, my heart full. "I know. And I'm proud of us." The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Melissa, "We should talk about Emma's future. Richard and I have been thinking." I smiled as I typed my response, "Emma's future is bright right where she is. But thanks for your concern." 6 months later, our pilot program launched in 5 schools across the state. Emma stood beside me at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Alex Reed on my other side. My classroom teaching days were behind me, but I was reaching more students than ever through the program. That night, as Emma and I ate dinner in our new apartment, nothing extravagant, but in a safe neighborhood with good schools, she asked, "Do you ever wonder if Mom regrets leaving?" I considered the question carefully. I think people regret the things they value too late. Your mother valued status and security. I valued being present for you, doing meaningful work, even if it meant struggling for a while. And now you have both, Emma pointed out. Now we have both, I corrected her. But more importantly, we have each other. That's what got us through the hard times. Emma nodded thoughtfully. You know what's weird? I'm actually grateful for that horrible reunion night. Really? Why? Because I got to see that sometimes life works out in ways you never expect. The people who judge you for struggling don't always get to write the end of your story. I smiled, recognizing the wisdom that sometimes comes only through hardship. That's a lesson worth learning early. As I looked at my daughter, confident, compassionate, and wise beyond her years, I realized that success isn't measured by bank accounts or job titles. It's measured in moments like these, in the character we build through challenges, and in the love that sustains us when nothing else will. The reunion had started with humiliation, but it ended with something far more valuable, the knowledge that our worth isn't determined by others' perceptions, but by our own resilience and the genuine connections we forge along the way. And sometimes, just sometimes, life offers second chances when you least expect them, not because a billionaire boss appears, but because you've been laying the groundwork all along, doing your best with what you have, and never giving up on what matters most.